What changes would you like to see Luka make to his game or whatever else in the offseason? Because I feel like the number one thing I had, Mike, is probably already off the table, was not to play in the Olympic qualifiers. And then Nico was like, look, as long as he can, he's going to play in the Olympic qualifier.
I get it. And that's why we got to really root against Slovenia and just hope they lose in a hurry.
There's a video of him showing up to the Slovenia facility right
Eating
now.
dumplings and sausage.
No, he's
well, that's the
up.
Slovenia way. We found that out.
We
just
did
got
see
to
their
Google
recipe board.
Yeah, they like dough and they like sausage.
Oh, I love those things.
I will say this, and this is my if I'm ranking them, number one is that he mentally stays focused with the game at hand.
Okay.
So there's a lot of other things too, and he's great. He is one of the best players in the game. But if he could figure out how to mentally stay in the game, no matter what happens, and obviously we're talking about fouls or lack of fouls, whatever. If he could do that, I will live with a lot of the physical traits, and not a lot, but the few physical traits that I would like for him to get better at.
Can I add on to that? Because we think y'all are all against me is when he gets unfocused, right? Like, how did you not see that foul, you idiot? And I know I didn't foul on the other end, but how did you not see that foul on me? Maybe finding a new way to politic with, because I still want him to use that, to press them to make sure they're watching for fouls that are called against him. You have to get that. You have to demand that star power. But if he can find a new way to politic with them, not so much I'm berating you in front of everybody, as much as let me find a way to be not your friend. But Kevin, we discussed the seminar where he gets to hear everything from him, and just finding another way to go about his politics for that.
Now, you guys have mentioned two mental things, which I think is probably the correct answer, but does anybody have more of a concern on the physical front in terms of being in shape?
Yeah.
Because that's something that it felt like, I don't know when, but at some point during the season, it started to slip some, which you would think like probably wouldn't happen in the middle of an NBA season. And I mean this before the injuries. I get it. If your knee, your ankle, and your chest are all busted up, it's going to be really hard to keep going.
I think you guys remember the show Inside the NBA with Hannah Storm and Ahmad Rashad, and I think they had a few other people that were on it. I think, if I remember this right, this is crazy.
Inside stuff?
Inside stuff. Thank you. Inside stuff. Thank you. I think that Stephon Marbury and Kevin Garnett, when they were on the Timberwolves, now remember, those were two very skinny guys. I think they were trying to consume 10,000 calories a day. 6,000 was the minimum, and they wanted them to consume. A normal diet is about 2,000 for a normal person. But because of the energy they're expending, because of how much they needed, that they were somewhere between 6,000 and 10,000 calories a day to try to keep their weight up. And I don't know this, but Luka has a body that wants to retain weight and put on weight. It just does. I hate saying this. I probably at 40 to 50 years old, Luka is going to be a 300-pound guy. His body wants to be 300 pounds. It is not easy for him to keep his weight down. His body wants to retain as much weight as possible. That's just the way his body was made. So it's very tough for him. We can see that he probably put on, I'm going to assume, 5 to 10 pounds during the season, which is very tough to do for an NBA basketball player. But his body wants to be heavy. And so it's very tough for him. I would like for him to lose 10 to 15 pounds. I would like for him to have a little bit better cardio. Now, sometimes body structure, we work too much on his body needs to look like Anthony Edwards. Well, Anthony Edwards' tongue was dragging on the carpet.
There's a difference between looking like you're in shape and actually being in shape.
You can look like you're carved out of a mountain like Jason Garrett used to say, but can you run all day?
And Des Bryant couldn't, right? Because he used Des Bryant as the example. He looks like he's in shape, but he's not. And so
Alvin Harper was in shape.
Yeah. And so you look at it and go, yes, I would like for him to be in more shape. Another thing that I will add to this is I would like for him to figure out how to play better off of the ball, but that also goes with cardio.
You just, that was the That was the number one thing I had on the list. Like, I understand everything that you guys are. I understand everything that you guys are saying. And stop John with the refs is I put that on there. I'd like to see him start the season in better shape and hopefully remain there. I put that on there. I like him to not play for Slovenia in the qualifiers or the Olympics. I put that on there. But work more on his off-ball game, just because I think that gives you so many more options. I mean, not I think. It definitely gives you so many more options with what you can do with this team, or maybe even what kind of player that you might be looking for. I'm not saying it drastically changes that, because obviously you think then Kyrie would be on the ball, a lot more, but it could change the options of players that you could even look at.
Yes. And then I want to add this as an extra to, especially, like, people know who Ryan Drees is, I think, pitched for the Texas Rangers. He's a big
loves in and out
Golden State Warriors fan, and that's where he grew up. He grew up in the Bay Area, and he will always rag on my guy, Luka. I get it. And he's like, he dribbles forever, this and that. And I get it, because he loves Golden State Warriors basketball. He has to work off the ball more. I can agree with you on that, Ryan Drees and other people, and I would like for him to do that. But you have to understand, have you seen PJ Washington and Derek Jones Jr. and Daniel Gafford? Have you seen these guys handle the basketball, dribbling and passing? It's at a very low level. Kyrie's at a very high level. Josh Green is at an inconsistent level. Jaden Hardy is at a below average level for his size and his position that he's at. So we want this, but I also have to then, Luka would push back on this, and I'd say, you're right also. You want me to give the ball to Derek Jones Jr., you want me to work off the ball hard, and you think he's going to hit me on a back cut? You think he's going to hit me off of that pick perfectly where I get the ball in the pocket I need to make a great decision? He can't do it. PJ Washington is okay at it. So that's the other thing too, is I think they both go hand in hand. Not that I want to get rid of a lot of players on the Mavs. I don't. But there's a lot of players, when you give Maxi Kleber the ball, he has no clue how to actually make a decent pass. He's just looking to either shoot it or get rid of the ball.
And Kyrie's the other option on that, right? Like, he's the,
in terms of being on the ball.
Yeah, he's the only real. And if you had like a Spencer Dinwiddie, you felt like you probably could do that, but you don't have that kind of guy right now. So I'm trying to find another way. But Kyrie, it oftentimes felt like once Kyrie got the ball, either he was scoring or he was finding somebody else on a lob. He wasn't going back to Luka as frequently.
I think that could be helpful, because one of the things that I think became a little bit of a frustration in the postseason with Kyrie is it felt he was kind of disjointed from the offense.
Yes.
It was either just give him the ball and let him go for what he knows, or, nothing, right? And so I think you would want to marry him even more into the offense, and I think having Luka be more comfortable off the ball would allow him to be more involved, get going better within the flow of the offense, as opposed to just, hey, get yours in the flow of the offense, and then when Luka sits, then you can really be your full self. I think that could be helpful.
I mean, look, it feels impossible to argue against that. So then my next question is, I hear all of these suggestions, and I appreciate all of them. What do you think is the most reasonable to least reasonable? Because, I think we've got a lot of great suggestions. They're not all going to happen, because that feels like an impossible amount of change for a human in an off season. Which one of these is most reasonable?
Well, I'll tell you one that we didn't name that I think is most reasonable, is that you become a better free throw shooter.
Okay.
That's reasonable.
Easy.
Yeah.
To me, that is not that you're going to be 100% or even 90%. To me, that's the easiest thing. But I'll tell you what, LeBron has never cared about being a good free throw shooter. And to me, that's LeBron is so talented. You can't shoot 82, 83%. You can't even shoot close to that.
This was his career high by a good bit, but only 78.6 for Luka. 78.6%. His previous high, 75.8.
How many times, and I know that they won more than they lost in the playoffs. How many times did we come and go, God, the free throw shooting? And some of it was led by Luka being a 50% free throw shooter in playoff games. So to me, that's the easiest. The most difficult is his brain.
Yeah, and I'll honestly say another difficult one is the physical part of it, because he won't give himself the opportunity to rest. That's a big factor. Whenever you have the opportunity to rest, you can. How many times do you see guys that are in better shape, like better conditioning after an injury, because they were doing so much work while they were trying to recover from the injury. And right now, his body's still beat up, and he's about to go play. And that's how he's not going to recover. He's not going to get better from it. So that seems like an unreasonable thing to ask right now, Kevin, because he can't have an offseason to just go work out.
And I was goofing about his diet, but if he's going to immediately play now, so his body's banged up, but he's immediately going to go play in high competition where he has to be the best player on the court by far in a Slovenia versus whoever matchup. He can't change his diet to like right now I'm going to cut down on carbs. I'm going to cut down on sugars. He's going to be like, I have to eat. I don't know what he eats before games, but I have to eat this before games to feel like I have the energy to play 40 minutes. And I'm sure there's quite a few carbs in that diet to make sure that you can play an NBA basketball or an Olympic qualifying or an Olympic basketball game. So he can't change his diet at all during this Olympic stuff.
Yeah, and that physical part of it, if we're also going to say, hey, don't be a hole on defense, he's got to work on footwork. He's got to work on execution of defense and commitment to that. Now, again, regular season, I don't really care that much. Most of the league doesn't care that much. It's not like they're going to say, you know what, we're hunting Luka tonight all night. But whenever it comes to playoff time, that's going to have to be a factor. So I would say, yes, reasonable free throw shooting. I think if you take the time to go see a monk and then just sit down and meditate a little with yourself, then maybe you can come at peace, Kevin, with the mental aspect of it.
Well, I guess that'd be Donnie Cockstein.
He's not going to give him. Yeah, he does need somebody to have that.
Well,
kind
he's
of
on the
discussion
Mavs
with.
staff as I guess the monk.
But do you think that Luka's reaching out to him? I don't know.
I don't know
about that part of it.
I'm really fascinated by the free throw thing. I decided to look that up when you were talking about LeBron. Never shot better than 78% free throws in a season. Michael Jordan, the worst season he ever had was 78.4, and I believe that was one of two seasons he was not in the 80s, and usually about mid-80s. I just think about, and I'm not trying to compare just those two, I was just curious how many points you leave out there, because Luka, we said, by far career high this year, 78.6%. How many points you leave out there every season?
I've always thought it's weird how much he complains about not getting the call when he's not a consistent free throw shooter.
Yeah, that is.
Shaq, I think one of the reasons Shaq didn't complain, I think number one was, his father that raised him, not as biological as he said in his rap videos.
Yeah.
But I think that too is like, I don't want to complain too much because I'm not crazy about going to this free throw line.
And for what feels like the, fourth or fifth straight year, Luka will be the preseason MVP favorite, at least as of now.
But this year feels different, right?
Yes. This year, are you saying this year feels more earned that he's the favorite as opposed to last year?
I don't even know if it's like more earned, although you could take it that way. It's just, it felt like kind of a tease in years past where you're like, yeah, but when we get to when it really matters, you're not going to feel the same way.
Yeah.
This year definitely feels like he's going to actually be in contention in a real way.
And that's what I think as well. He is the leader, followed by Jokic, and then there's a pretty good little drop down to Shea, Giannis, Embiid, Anthony Edwards, the normal people you would think of in that group.
Corey, that's your bet right there if Anthony Edwards is sixth.
Yeah, and on this list, he is at 12-1.
Let's go. Let's do it.